Hi, I'm Rick Dior, and today, in this episode of Snare Drum of the Week, I'm going to show you the Yamaha David Garibaldi Snare Drum. So I've had this drum for a long time. I think I got it in 2011, if I'm not mistaken. I bought it secondhand, did not get it new, but it's a very early drum. I'll show you the badge in a minute, but I believe it's number 119, and I think they made at least 1,000 of these things. So this would be the early version of it. So I'll show you about the drum. I'll talk about it first, and then I'll play it at the kit for you. All right. So a few details about this drum. First of all, it's a 3.5 by 14. So I consider this a piccolo snare drum. Anything under 4 inches, I personally consider a piccolo drum. So it's pretty much the only drum I have like this, so I can't really compare it to anything. I have lots of 4-inch drums, and I have lots of wood piccolo drums, but I don't have a lot of metal because metal piccolos, because this one pretty much does it all for me for that. So there's no need to have another one. Now, I did have its cousin for a long time, which was the Yamaha SD493. That was first, and then this drum came along. I have a hunch that maybe Mr. Garibaldi, I think he played on that drum first, if I'm not mistaken. So I remember seeing some pictures. And it was similar sounding too, but I sold that one because they sounded almost identical to me. So if you want the sound without paying that much money, those drums, which aren't cheap, they're going to be about $500 or $600 cheaper than this drum, just because this is a signature snare. Now, they stopped making these around 2016. Yamaha stopped making most of their signature snare drums around then, as well as this one. So, like I said, it's an early one, 119. So I would say this is probably from maybe 2010, although hopefully someone out there can correct me and let me know what year it's from. I have no idea, really. Now, this strainer's okay. It's not great. Mine's a little wobbly. It's got some play in it. It always has. So I guess I can probably go in there and take it off and tighten it up and work on it. But it works, you know, and I've never had a problem with it. But it is a little bit wobbly, so it doesn't feel super secure. So the strainer's not the greatest thing on this drum. It has 3 vent holes. I'll show you some close-ups in a second. 3 vent holes, which is interesting, and then there's a rubber gasket. You could plug one of them or leave them all open. Now, there might have been 2 rubber plugs, but when I got it, like I said, I bought it secondhand, there was only the one. So I have 2 open vent holes, which to me isn't a problem. Like the Dunnet drum, you can play it open or closed. I don't personally notice much of a difference in feel or sound with that vent hole open or closed. So, you know, the air is going to escape somehow. It just makes it easier if there's a hole in the drum. So underneath here, I have the regular snares that came with, I think, because this is what was on it. The shell, let me make sure I get this right. It's a seamless brass shell. It's 1.2 millimeters thick. And if I didn't say it already, the hoops are 3 millimeter zinc die-cast hoops, okay? And pretty much the same specs as that other 493. Now, the model number on this one is SD435DG, which stands for David Garibaldi, obviously. All right, and they call this a blue nickel alloy finish. The bearing edges are 45 degrees, okay? Now, looking for snare beds, I don't really feel any. That doesn't mean they're not there, but there's nothing, you know, not like the giant, you know, rat trap ones that you had from the old days. The Ludwig's been just carved out there. So some of these drums have really, really subtle snare beds, like you can barely feel them or see them. Some have no snare beds. You don't have to have snare beds for the snare drum to sound good. That's not true. You don't have to. There's plenty of snare drums. In fact, I would say maybe a quarter of my snare drums do not have snare beds, and they sound fine. All right? It just matters how the snares sit on there. What's more important are the actual snares themselves. How long they are. Are they too long? Are they too short? Do they work with the drum? And just so you know, I think the best sounding snares on drums without snare beds will be about 1/2 of an inch short on either side. So if the drums are 14, they're going to be 13-inch snares. All right, that's a little fun fact for you to know. Now, the tension rods are a little bit shorter on this drum because it's a piccolo, right? And again, 10 lugs. And the lugs are kind of a different design, sort of a mini lug for Yamaha. You don't normally see these. So let's give you some close-ups now. Take this old cell phone. Oh, and by the way, the heads are Remo coated ambassadors on top, and I have the original Yamaha on the bottom. So here's the plate, and you see that 119. And I think they changed the plates, someone told me. The later ones look a little bit different. The drums, I would consider this to be in excellent shape. Not mint, but excellent. It has a few tiny little scratches here and there. Not, in the rims, and I can clean that up, but I just didn't. It's got these little snare guards underneath here. So we'll turn it over. Now it's a heavy drum. I'd say it probably weighs about maybe 12 pounds or so. Feels pretty heavy. I haven't weighed it, but all right. And I'll show you the bearing edges here, and no snare beds that I can see. And finally, the vent holes. That's what they look like. Now I'll show you the one that's plugged. Oops. This is the third one, and here's the one. That's what the plug looks like, okay? You just take it out of there. When I put it in or take it out, I notice absolutely no difference whatsoever. So that's it. Put this down. So it's a pretty basic design, no frills. It's just got the really beautiful blue color. Hopefully that's coming out. It's hard to get it to come out on camera. But I've never seen another snare drum like it. I don't think no one ever made one. So I don't know what the plating process was like for this, but it probably cost them a good bit of money to do each one of these. So I'll bring it over to the drum kit and we'll play it for you and we'll see what you think. So here's the Garibaldi drum at the kit. I have it tuned moderately high. In a minute I'll tune it even higher. And this is the drum unmuffled. a really fun drum to play. It's got great response. It's super tight. It's almost like playing a marching drum. That's the beauty of a piccolo like this that's brass. You can really crank it up and it still sounds beefy. Those aren't rim shots, okay? No rim shots there. These are the rim shots. So really, when you just hit the drum regularly, you hear the difference between the rim shots and the regular hits. Just an amazing sounding drum. And the feel of it makes you want to play, you know? That's the thing about a great drum. It not only sounds good, it feels good. So I have certain drums that they sound good, but they don't feel great. And so they're not my favorite drums. But there's a few that sound good or sound great and feel great too. And it's kind of rare. It's almost like magic, the chemistry between the heads, the shell, the snares, the size of the drum, those things, okay? And this is one of those special drums, just as the brass version is. We'll try an even higher tuning for you. So this is kind of choking the drum, to be honest with you. But I have used it this high. It almost sounds like one of those little satellite drums, you know, that they used to make. Rogers made a drum like that, and Sonar makes the pancake drums too, and they sound like this. So that's also a great tuning for this drum. It doesn't choke, to me anyway. We'll see what it sounds like in the control room, but I've used it on a ton of sessions. It just cuts right through the mix. And without the rim shots, it also has a really good cross-room sound. Now I'm going to tune it down low for you so you can check it out. It's pretty interesting. Not the best, but I've used it a few times. So this is about a step below my normal tuning for this drum. My normal tuning for this drum is like a B flat, so, or an A sharp, however you want to say it. All right. got some bass to it, right? So it is usable. It's kind of a special sound. So let's crank it up to that middle tempo, middle tuning. And I'll show you exactly what it sounds like muffled. But I normally do not muffle this drum. Doesn't need it. So here's the tuning without muffling. And with the muffling. All right. Yeah, I don't like it, but maybe in the control room it'll be okay. So that's it. That's the Yamaha David Garibaldi Snare Drum. No longer made, but there are always some used ones floating around. They made lots of these things. It wasn't like they made 100. I think they made thousands of them. And I know they sold them all, obviously. So they're out there. Hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time.